will be called to order. Our first order of business, we'll take a silent roll call if we will. And our first order of business is a swearing in of a new member, Mr. Michael Braun. Will you rise, please?
Yes, sir.
We're very formal here. Raise your right hand.
Okay, if you can raise your right hand. Thank you, Mike. And if you could repeat after me. I, Michael Braun,
I, Michael Brown,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and the laws of the state of Arizona,
the laws of the state of Arizona.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and defend them against all enemies,
to the same and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission member
discharge the duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission member
of the town of Carefree,
of the town of Carefree,
Arizona, according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
After, let's see, Les, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brief announcement. Welcome back, everybody. We had a month off, a nice summer. It's a little toasty still, but we're back in session doing the people's work. How's that?
Beautiful.
Regular agenda. We have some minutes. Board of Adjustment, January 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it, do have it so ordered. First case is, second item is case number 2505B. Will you please introduce the case and tell us what it's all about?
I would be happy to, Chairman Burns. Thank you for your time this evening. We are looking at case number 2505B. It's a property located at 3018 Ironwood Circle, Lot 17 in the Boulders, Carefree. The applicant is Mr. Tyler Green and the owners Mr. and Mrs. Kip and Cindy Coco. Just to jump into it and sort of, again, kind of with our newer member, to sort of understand the process and what a variance is all about. The lot, as you read likely in the report, is what we call a legal non-conforming lot. It's undersized. And so there's certain conditions in a town for property development that are what we call legal non-conforming because they do not sort of abide by the development standards that are set forth in a certain zoning district. So in this case, the Boulders was developed before they were annexed into the town. They were developed in the county, and so when they were annexed in, the zoning was given a blanket determination of R118. They probably looked at what most of the lots were and thought, oh, this is a relevant zoning category for this subdivision. But in fact, there are so many different varieties of lots. Where we find ourselves today is that often there are things about a lot that do not comply with the R118 development standards. And so that is the case tonight, and that is typically the case in our zoning variances. The zoning ordinance has a mechanism, it's written in, that allows for relief from some of these development standards if they can prove this hardship that is actually defined by Arizona state law. And so that is something that we are looking at today. As I mentioned, that this lot in particular is a legal non-conforming due to its size. So while I was writing this report, I realized that this looks complex, the request. In essence, the whole backyard, it sits in the 30-yard rear yard setback. So as you all know, and as you will learn to know, we really prohibit a lot of types of development in that rear yard space. In this case, one of them being the property owner is looking to do some minor modifications to, one, their existing patio cover. They're looking to extend that the full width of their home. And so looking at that, it actually falls, we're looking for relief with about 24 feet into the rear yard setback for that patio cover, and then it also imposes upon the side yard setback as well. So they're looking to extend that patio cover. They're also looking to increase the size of their lot, nominally, but in essence, more so they can have more property to enjoy in the rear yard, and that is where the wall relief comes into play. And it's a little bit different, as you all know, from the setbacks, is because we can develop, or in Carefree you may develop walls or fences within half of that side yard setback. So the request gets it's a little different from something straightforward. So as it shows in this request, it's looking for relief for both the rear yard patio extension as well as an increase in the size of the backyard space. In this case, which is something we do like to see, is that they still are looking for relief from lot coverage. They definitely exceed the amount, and lot coverage is anything under a solid roof. But as I'm sure you read, this one actually decreases that nonconformance. Now, it may not be a lot, but it's not increasing that nonconformance, and so I would look at that as a benefit. So just to get an idea of where we're at in the boulders, this is sort of in about the northwest corner, I wouldn't say far corner, but the northwest area of the boulders itself. These properties are, they're all three of them are small, but you can see the subject lot and the adjacent properties are about the same size. They are not, while they look close together, they are not attached. But they do, you can see that all three of them actually have legal nonconforming conditions. With that said, just tried to sort of highlight what the request is all about. You can see in the top part the existing conditions. It shows you the extent of the existing patio cover. So in essence, they're not increasing that, the size of the patio cover by a lot, but they are increasing it. As well as you can see in the green where their existing yard ends and where they're looking to propose their expanded yard. And again, what this also highlights is that the parallel lines is where they're looking to build a trellis, and that's where you get a decrease in the lot coverage or solid roof. The applicant did meet the citizen participation requirements. In your report, it outlined that they're having discussions with their neighbors, which is a positive thing, but no objections were received by either the applicant or town staff. So this being a public hearing would be something that would be open to the public for any kind of commentary. An action is required this evening that was outlined in your report. And there are staff recommended conditions of approval associated with that action. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Would you please explain to me or show me on the picture, item 1 of the variance concerns the 30-foot rear setback, and item 3 concerns the rear 30-foot setback, right?
Well, I would say that all of the requests impose upon the 30-yard setback, and then it compounds it also with the 10-foot side yard setbacks.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Okay.
how you're going 24 feet with the building setback,
Oh, I understand what you're asking me,
and then
Chairman
you're
Burns.
12.8 on the 30-foot, but you only have to count half of it because it's a pool fence. And
Right, it's a wall.
would you just walk through that a little bit?
Absolutely. No, I'd be glad to. So let's start with the patio cover. So really what's impacted by the patio cover is the 30-yard setback, the full 30-foot setback. And so same with the side yard setback. So on the, so the request being the 24 feet, the way, and we haven't looked at the variance in a while, is that we talk about variances in terms of how much is impacting that setback. So it really is looking for relief from less than 6 feet from the property line, but we talk about it as how much are they imposing upon that 30-foot setback, and that's why you have a 24-foot request. It's about how much is in the setback, not how much is away from the property line.
Can you kind of illustrate where the setback line is? We can't see
Oh.
your cursor.
Well, oh, you can't see the
What,
cursor.
in the top picture, what is
Right.
what's,
Yes, I understand your question. The reason
lost.
the reason you don't see that setback line is because the 30 feet almost goes beyond the home.
okay, if the home is in the building.
The
is in
home itself is also in the 30-yard setback. The 30-yard setback is actually just beyond.
Okay, but it says that the building is 24 feet into the setback, but that the wall is only 12.8 feet in the setback?
Because walls can be half, so technically, another way to think of it is that it's within the 15-foot
Okay.
setback because it's allowed to be within half of it. So from the face of the building out, the patio cover is how much of it is inside the 30-yard setback.
And basically all of it is.
And all of it is.
Okay.
And then we're just telling you that there's certain, from, how much of that structure is imposing upon the setback versus telling you how far it is from the property
Okay,
line.
if we were only being asked for item 3 and 4, which is the fence line that you get half of it, does that require a variance?
It still would also,
Or can you handle that without coming to us?
no, because the wall is closer than 15 feet, right? So the wall is about 2 or 3 feet from the property line. So
Okay.
it's within that 15-foot
Okay,
setback.
good enough.
Mhm.
Okay, I've totally confused myself. Anybody else have any?
Yes,
So,
I-
but no, but is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't want you
It's
to.
mud.
It's, but like I had mentioned, it's all in the setback.
Right.
Setbacks, I should say.
Stacy,
Yes.
the chart is confusing because the top picture says existing conditions, the bottom picture says proposed conditions, and both of the walls all look exactly the same. So looking at the top picture, existing conditions, is the shaded wall to the right not there? Is that
Right.
to be proposed? That's a proposed new wall.
Right. The
So it's
shaded
not
wall
an
is new.
existing condition, it's,
Proposed, correct. I understand what you
okay.
So I had one site plan from
Okay.
the applicant, but the shaded area shows you, if you can see faintly, that the existing wall curves as it follows that green shaded area. That's where the
Oh,
edge of
okay.
this existing
Oh,
yard
that's-
space is.
You know, a photograph of the existing property would have been very helpful.
I can go back to that aerial if you'd like to see.
One other question I have on the existing conditions diagram, the dotted line, is the existing patio that's to the right, is that a solid walkable patio cover? Is that something that you can walk on? In other words, on the top picture, everything inside of the red dotted line, the rectangle bounded by the red lines, is that a walking patio that people can walk on?
The green area, everything that's in green is the backyard patio
Yeah,
space.
but I'm talking about the red dotted line. Isn't that on the second floor where people walk around?
That's the patio cover, and in this instance, yes, they do have a stairway up to that patio cover that
And-
they use as a roof deck.
And is that entire patio something that can be walked on? In other words, everything to the right, on the right side of that rectangle, is that walkable? Do you
I'm
understand what
trying
I'm
to
saying?
follow
Is
you.
this a-
Basically-
Is this a long rectangle that people can walk on? And then-
Existing it is, correct, yes.
And then we're going to take off part of that
They're taking
and
off part
replace
of
it
it.
with a bigger trellis.
They're replacing it with some trellis, but they're maintaining also the solid red is still covered
Yes,
patio.
that I understand.
Okay,
Okay, now I understand it. Okay.
Stacy,
yes.
Boulders has an HOA, right?
Mhm.
And did this go through their CCNR
It did.
process?
Yeah, we asked for HOA approval before we move the case forward.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Stacy, can you go back to the 2 3 previous ones? Just a quick question.
The, this one here, or?
Yes, this one.
Mhm.
Does that encroach on the Heights plot line?
No, neither.
It looks like it doesn't.
Probably in the aerial is somewhat smaller. We have a graphic that tries to show the property boundary, but no. Because they're not, each of those structures, they're not attached. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Do we have a presentation or
Well, the owners are, pardon?
do we start with the owners or public hearing?
If you have questions for the owners or the applicant, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, then we would open up the public hearing.
Well, let's see if the owners want to address it.
Okay.
Do the owners wish to address it? Or the owners direct?
You're not required to, but if you'd like to come up.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Tyler Green. I'm the architect on the project. Just a couple of really quick points. We think we definitely have a hardship as required by law just because the site is about a third of the size that would legally be set for that zoning. There's homes up and down the street that have received the same variance and have the same sort of configuration in their backyard. It's a big area of open space behind the home, so it doesn't affect anyone. It's approved by the homeowners association, and it's in harmony with the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you.
I just have a question. Thank you. In reviewing the correspondence back and forth, I saw that the Dempseys wrote and the Cocos responded. Are the Dempseys happy after that response?
As far as I know, I haven't heard of any complaints about it.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if the owners want to address that. The conversations that I've had also with the owner was that there was one neighbor that was concerned about construction access. That was the Dempseys, and I believe that the owners are now utilizing a different access point that will
Okay.
not impact the Dempseys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, and we did walk the Dempseys through the project, and they had no questions, so,
Okay, I can understand why the Dempseys did not get the notice because their address that's listed is not a PO box,
exactly,
and the post office don't deliver to Ironwood Circle.
right,
Okay.
yeah.
Anybody care to make a comment? Public hearing?
So you just open the public hearing, right?
We've opened the public hearing. Any comments from the public? Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second to approve the variances with the conditions as noted by the staff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you very much. Enjoy your patio. You're supposed to do all this construction in the summertime so that it's not, you'll get it.
I'm very glad we're not, I'm the contractor.
Oh, okay. Okay, we are 3 minutes late for the development. So can I have a motion to it? Is that right? I'm ready?
Yeah,
Can I
no
have a motion
announcements.
to adjourn? Thank you very much.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Board of Adjustment is adjourned.
Okay.
The Development Review Board is called to order. Will the clerk take a silent roll call? And can I have a motion with respect to the minutes of the July 14th, 2025 meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the July 14th Development Review Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Second item on the agenda is discussion and possible action of a single-family residence in the Mountainside Zoning District, case number 2410 MS. Stacy, will you please introduce this to us?
I will. Thank you, Chairman Burns. Yes, so now we're looking at a mountainside case located on Montezuma Road, which is in our subdivision of Ranchitos Del Rey, kind of the northern part of Carefree, we like to call our Highlands. The applicant is Mr. Lance Baker, the architect, and the owners are Mr. and Mrs. David and Jennifer Dogie. I'll go through sort of the general information, the things that you all look for as Development Review Board members, how it aligns with the zoning ordinance and how it complies with that. Then the applicant will step up and provide feedback or provide a little more detailed introduction or explanation of the project. So this gives you which is not the slope analysis. The next slide is the slope analysis. This is a contextual location of the site. And what is interesting about this particular property is it was a number of properties that were joined together. Ranchitos Del Rey is interesting when it was platted, as the size of the lots are undersized. They're usually around 70 to 75,000 square feet. However, they have rural 190 zoning. At one time, the owners of this probably owned 3 lots together, decided to join them and have one larger lot. Looking at the slope analysis, and what I find interesting about it is that it really defines the site in terms of where there are washes and where there are somewhat knolls or developable areas. The red are the steep slopes, the green are the shallower, more developable areas, and as you can see, the home is being proposed in the southeast corner of the property and as much as a level area as possible. The other opportunity would have put it more probably within the setback. So I would say for sure the site is very constrained with mountainside criteria. With that said, looking at our development standards, as I mentioned, this is rural 190, although this lot is very large. It does comply with our development standards. First, the lot coverage. It is a large home, as you read in the report. Our maximum lot coverage is 6%, and this looks, it's pushing at 5 1/4. The disturbance also allows for a maximum of 18%. That's anything developed on the property. However, it excludes the driveway at 12.72%. The setbacks are 60 feet up front and rear, 30 on the sides, and it does comply, as you likely saw in the setbacks. Cumulative height of 32 feet 9 inches, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail in the next slide, which is anything from the lowest structure on a site to the highest roof line or parapet of a structure. I am looking at, the overall height of the building, and that's anywhere under, and under the roof line does not exceed 24 feet. It is a 24-foot maximum allowance. The grading and drainage requirements reviewed by the town engineer, it does meet those development standards, in particular the cut and fill ratio requirement, meaning that there's not more fill than cut under the building pad. In this case, there are on-site utilities, both a well as well as a septic system, and it was important to note that there is a seepage pit design system, which basically means they don't need septic fields, and so the upside of that minimizes disturbance. Looking at the site plan, as I mentioned, the location of the home, it really is kind of nestled in sort of the corner, the eastern corner of the property. I apologize that cumulative height should say 32 feet 9 inches, but I wanted to highlight where that measurement and how that measurement is taken. As you can see with the 2 small red pluses, the lowest point is at the sort of western plus, which is at the bottom of some terrace retaining walls, to the top of the roof line of the home. What also is shown is the approximate location of the septic system and being under the driveway. Under your purview also is the reuse is landscaping, and so there is a reuse of salvaged plants as well as new native landscaping at all of the disturbed areas. And again, the benefit is, typically we tend to see revegetation at septic fields. In this case, that's not necessary, and more of the natural existing desert is preserved. These renderings, although you saw in your report there were several, but I think these illustrate most how the house really is sort of built in, all while it is on sort of that knoll, or the sort of higher point of the property. It is nestled in into that, into those slopes and into that landform. You can see that in the front, particularly with the garage. You can see how it's set lower. The rendering on the bottom of the slide shows how it's sort of from the back. You can see how it really is kind of built into that slope area. So that's how that cut and fill sort of works, and how we get that fair sort of finished floor grade. In this regard, this is a public meeting, a little bit different from the public hearing that we just held. It is a public meeting, and public has a right to speak. It's not a public hearing. The citizen participation requirements have been met. No replies from staff or from the applicant, as I understand it. And there are conditions of approval that are attached to the report should you move this project forward. And the applicant is here. I'm happy to answer questions first, but the applicant is also here who would like to present his project.
Any questions for Stacy?
Okay. All right.
Hi there, I'm Lance Baker. I'm the architect for the project, and we have Candace is here representing the Dogies. They're actually out of the country right now. I'm sure we'd all rather be in Greece, but anyway, as Stacy mentioned, this is a very challenging site. The topography is just, frankly, it's a bear. So we've been working on this since December of last year, so almost a full year now. And while Mrs. Dogie is very anxious to get her house, it's been a challenge to make sure we hit all of the requirements of the mountainside lot and all of the town requirements, and I think we've done so. And while it is a large property, I don't think that it's going to be visually large when you see it, the way that it's tucked into the hillside. I don't even know how much of it you'll see from Montezuma when you're going around the corner, because of the hillside is up quite a bit. And it is sunken down on the rear, but that's actually kind of nice. It's going to give them still some views out to the valley. And then their most prized views that they're anxious to see are down the whole canyon through that whole wash, just because it's going to be a nice sunset looking out there. So tried to orient the house the best we could to take advantage of that and fit on the lot. Frankly, when you go back to that slope analysis, there's not very many spots you could put a house, unless it was on stilts. So, yeah. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
The well,
Uh-huh.
it's a reducing well. Do you know what the gallon per minute is?
I do not. I don't have that information. I don't know if you, not sure. Their plan is to utilize it for their water needs, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
I was past the lot. As you say, from Montezuma, you're probably not even gonna see this house, are you?
Probably not. I
Are you
mean,
gonna do anything with the dirt there? You know, that's.
no, we're trying to leave as much natural vegetation back there as we can. If you're talking about the hillside, when you're
Yeah.
looking at, no, we're not going to touch it. There's going to be a pool on that side of the house, but there's going to be a retaining wall, so it's actually going to be dropped down to the pool deck area. So you won't even see it from back there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
The plan doesn't show a pool?
It doesn't? Well, I think,
It does?
yeah, it does. It does. It's not a big one. It's,
It's right in here.
Oh, in little tiny letters it says
Oh,
pool.
it's pool behind the four-car, the garage.
That's right.
yeah. It's kind of a plunge pool. Not a big backyard. Again, they're focused, they're going to be retiring soon. They don't want a lot of maintenance with yard and all that stuff. Just a big enough area to go out in the back and enjoy it, and mainly enjoy the views out the front.
Knowing that area, if they go for a walk in any direction, it's uphill.
Right. Yeah. Luckily, the slope worked pretty decent for the driveway. I've worked on a lot worse before, and just the way that, if you saw that green band on the slope analysis, it kind of the only place you could really put one without doing a bridge of some kind or something.
Okay,
All right.
can I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it, do have it. So it was a close vote. You can report home that he did a fabulous job
Barely.
and wrestled victory from the jaws of
That's
defeat.
right. Hours of
Thank you very
arguing.
much. When do they anticipate starting construction?
They're waiting for their architect, so no. We're pretty close to being done with our construction documents, so we'll be filing for our building permit. We had to get through this first, but probably filing within a couple weeks, actually, so.
Happy building.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. He is a contractor too, so
Oh, he is?
he is, correct.
Good.
Yep,
Just so you know, we
Make-
now have online permitting.
yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn the Development Review Board? Can I have a second? Got a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Now it's good to have it so ordered. That's 4:15. We're now on to our 4:30 schedule, so we have to take a deep breath for 24 seconds. The house? Yeah, it's great. Free Planning and Zoning Commission will come to order. Can we get a silent roll call? And let's see, I think the first item of business is to consider the minutes from the May 12th Planning and Zoning Town Council work session. Have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I swear to have it, do that in such order. Second item of business is the Village Center redevelopment plan update from Mr. Steve Kovac.
Yeah, Commissioner Burns, Planning and Zoning Commission, let's prepare ourselves for the next 3 to 4 hours of excitement and fun to go with. I'm just kidding. So today we're just going to go through an update on the redevelopment plan. And for those who are new to the board and haven't gone through the redevelopment plan, when we created this plan, it's actually created through the Planning and Zoning Commission, gets approved through Planning and Zoning, and then ultimately gets approved through the council. And the way that we've structured this is that the Planning and Zoning Commission helps manage the plan itself, and then we utilize the Economic Development Advisory Board when we start dealing with strategic issues related to the plan that have a little bit more of the functions to do with economic development. So there's a lot of blending between the plan and the EDAB, which is why those two commissions were put together, because there was just so much overlap as those things came in. So many questions were coming up that were planning related to economic development discussions, and vice versa. As we're doing planning discussions, a lot of economic development crossover was happening. So just to kind of, that's, if you're asking why we're going under P&Z, this is why, is that we're dealing specifically today with the plan. And I just wanted to just put that out there on the record. And so each year we're required to kind of go through the plan and put some type of report together or reporting. And last year what we did when we went through the through the redevelopment plan, we used it as the basis for taking the key initiatives and objectives for economic development in concert with some other things as being what was included in the new council strategic plan. And so what I'd like to do is we did it this time of year, is kind of go through where we are on some of those things. And then as we start to look at what we want to do over the next, maybe, as we move forward, other things that we want to start putting into the dashboard of what to deal with next and how these things sequence. And so when you look at this front slide here, this actually just shows you where the redevelopment area is. And this is a redevelopment area actually is an approved area through the state statute that the council approved. And it allows us to have specific legal things through the statutes that allow us to do things that we normally couldn't do if we weren't in a redevelopment area. And those usually are around how we can use public funding, and the other one is how we can acquire and dispose of real estate, meaning that it's a lot easier and we can do it more like a private sector entity versus having to do it as a public sector entity. And then what you're looking at here on the maps is just the first map that you see is the area, and then the second one is part of the redevelopment plan. We have what's called a vision plan, and this vision plan, if you go into the document, will kind of roughly show like what we have on tap of what we're trying to do with each of the different areas and the different properties within town. The plan itself came out of the 2015 Village Center Master Plan, and we turned that into a redevelopment plan. So while the master plan was created in 2015, the redevelopment plan status is fairly recent. It creates kind of an interesting, so those plans are good for 10 years, the redevelopment plan, but we're working from kind of a 10-year plan now with the Village Center Master Plan. And so when we go through a lot of these things, you're going to see a lot of the stuff has been done or is in process. And we're probably getting to the stage of this plan where, even though we're only a couple years into the redevelopment part of it, potentially looking at the implementation, the goals, objectives, strategies, and if it's up to the board to be able to maybe look at those over the next 12 to 24 months, and if there's any changes we want to make to the plan or any amendments we want to make to the plan to propose to council, because it is a little bit older. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up as we start going through this, and just to kind of frame it, because I know we have some new folks that are on the commission. These right now are the goals. I'm not going to read through them, but give you a minute to kind of read through those goals. And really it's just focusing for the most part on really creating a village concept. And so when we went through and did the Village Center Master Plan, it wasn't just focused on idea of retail, 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 even though we hammer that a lot in economic development. From a planning perspective, it was really looking at it holistically in the town center. And that's why it's called the Village Center and not the town center when they did the redevelopment plan, was to really create this village center concept. So it included not just the commercial components or the retail components, but the full a complement of mix of uses, including the retail, the service businesses, and residential component to it as well. And so as we started to move forward, those things have been included in. And if you have any questions as we go through, please ask.
These goals come from where?
These are directly from the redevelopment plan. I actually cut and pasted them right out.
Okay, and just help me understand, you got these 6 goals, but those are not the 5 objectives that were in the timeline in chapter 5.
Correct. I'll get to those. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so the plan has a vision, it has goals, then it has the objectives, and then it has the strategic initiatives. And so these are the goals, and then I'll kind of go through, so I just wanted to outline those goals. This kind of gives you the idea. So there are the goals and the objectives for the redevelopment area. Then there's the implementation schedule, which is the chapter 5, which I provided you. What I wanted to do is that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. And so while I didn't want to get too much into the goals and objectives necessarily today, but really start focusing in on where we are with the implementation schedule. But I wanted to bring up the idea that we have this plan that has these broader things. So when you get a chance to read it and take a look at it, it's something we could probably put, if you want, put this on an agenda in the future to talk about the plan and if there's any amendments or changes that we might want to consider into the future. So that's why I brought it up. The one thing I want to say that this is a living document, and so when we get documents, sometimes, especially a plan like this, it just gets static. Somebody throws it on a shelf, and every once in a while you try to reference it. The concept here was that as we did things, as we added new plans on, like we're working on the circulation plan or the signage, marketing studies, those things become addendums to this particular plan. And so that way, as we accomplish things, we can update the plan with the most relevant and current information, and then that creates a body of work that as we move forward, you can utilize that full basis of all that information to continue to make different decisions, or if you want to amend the plan, or however you guys want to, any further implementation steps that you want to take. And then going to your point, here's the 5 objectives. And again, these are really around increasing the visibility and access, creating this strong village feel, and it not just being a destination to get to, but there's like a vibrancy to it when we talk about the enhanced center experience. And then the idea that we need to market promote the area, and then develop a strong organizational structure. And the strong organizational structure is around us, how do we manage the plan itself, as well as we start looking at the organizational structure of how do we manage stakeholders and get input and solicit input on how we implement the plan itself. And so going through the objective 1, I know this is really hard to read. I hope people can see it. It's a little more difficult on my screen.
Can we ask questions along?
Yeah, you can ask any questions you want.
Just curious, why the objectives aren't aligned with the goals?
Why the objectives? So
Or not aligned with the goals?
it's just the way this plan was completed, and so the original plan was completed in 2015, like I said, and that's what I'm talking about. So when we start looking at the plan itself and how the plan's structured, those are the things that we can address. And I don't think there's any way to address it today, but to answer your question, I don't know why it ended up being done that way, but that's the way it was done.
Well, since it's a living document, right, by your own definition,
Yep.
you could
Change
move
it.
forward and basically take the goals and align the objectives with the goals, and then the strategic initiatives with the objectives.
Yeah.
So it kind of follows that. Whoops.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want as a body. Yep. And that's what I was saying. That's what I was alluding to. If there's changes to the plan itself, whether it's the form of the plan or the content of the plan, as we move forward, this might be a good time for us to evaluate that now that we're 10 years into that plan. I agree with you.
Excuse me, and the goals are in the redevelopment plan, right?
Correct.
Okay, and is the redevelopment plan on the web?
The redevelopment plan is on the website, yes. And if anybody needs an additional copy, I can just send it to you as well, or I can put a book together if that's helpful. You know, I'll go ahead and just do that anyhow. I'll get you each a binder with the redevelopment plan and all the supporting documents.
Steve, this is the 80 or 90 page one that's on the website?
Correct.
Okay.
And it gets even a little longer as we added some additional information to it. And so when we get things approved, we add it as an appendix. So, but what I can do is put together some kind of binder that has the original plan in it, and then the appendices with, and then I'll just tab those out for you.
Thank you.
Yep. And so as we kind of go through objective one, a lot of the things that are here in objective one really relate to the signage and circulation plan. And so when we first started the signage plan, we started looking at the objective one and saying, well, there's other things that we could probably be addressing as we were going through with Kimley Horn and doing the signage. And so objective one, that's when we added in the circulation component to deal with the additional parking. And so circulation and parking to, again, obviously build upon the village center's pedestrian and bicycle friendly. So these are the things that were included. So when you start looking at the circulation planning itself and the parking planning, that does come from directly from what this plan. So everything that we typically will be working on, a lot of it does originate from these objectives. And so we use this kind of as really the guiding principles for how we go ahead and conduct our business. And so again, we're working from this. And so when people ask, you know, where does it come from? This is actually where it does come from. And so there are other things that we work on in economic development and in planning that aren't necessarily related to the town center, like the northeast corner, that are other objective-based goals. But anything related to the town center is going to be, for the most part, coming from here.
What is the status of the signage? The company that's building them, or?
So this, does you know where the
Anybody know
signage
that?
is?
Do we have an estimated date of installation?
Oh, I don't have those dates, but I think we did just finish approving the shop plan, so I think they're under production right now. So
Okay.
it's, we've decided where they're all going to be located, so it's moving forward.
Are we estimating within the next 6 months that they'll be installed? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they should be, hopefully by the end of the year, but I'm not.
Yeah, I would say sooner, but he gave me 6 months.
The mayor
so.
may be,
Probably on the order of late December or January
Of this year.
December this year.
January, for installation.
Yes.
Oh, good.
And then Kimley Horn still has, they're working on the final draft right now of the parking and circulation plan. So we're hopefully going to have that within the next 30 days and then bring that back for review with either the P&Z or the Economic Development Advisory Board. Either way, we can bring it back. And so I'm not going to go through these individually here, but if there's any questions as it relates to any of these strategic initiatives, let me know.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Probably not talking loud enough. You probably know what I'm gonna say. The
No.
glaring absence in all of this are dates. You know, some kind of date that says, okay, we're going to attempt to complete this strategic initiative by X, so on and so forth. Typically, you get some kind of dates in plans like these. So is the intent to add those at some point?
So the intention of the plan when it was created was to look at it, and you could look at it as short-term, 0 to 2 years, mid-term, 2 to 5 years, long-term, 5+ years. And so I think they were trying to kind of create a hierarchy of things without having to come back and continuously change dates to this type of plan. I can only suspect that that's what was done when it was created. We discussed potentially when we did the update of having dates, but then everybody kind of said, you know, let's just keep what we have here. And then as we add things on to the list of things to do, that we'll make sure that we have those dates. So the items that we're currently working on, like the parking plan or the facade program, those things all have dates assigned to them for when we're going to be completing those things. So that's how we've been managing it. But again, if we want to go through and try to assign some type of dates, some of this stuff's ongoing. we can look at those things. And there's things that actually could be even scratched off at some point when we get the signage completed, some of the wayfinding.
So, Steve, on your chart, the only two items that are short-term are the top one, the arrival, and then down at the bottom, additional parking opportunities. Short-term, 0 to 2 years. Can we talk about that subject, or let's not forget it?
Which subject?
Parking. Hmm?
The parking?
Yeah. Are we ready to talk about that? Because those are the only two things that are immediate within the next 2 years. Everything else is 2 to 5 years out. So this looks to me like something that we are dealing with now.
Yep.
Create additional parking. Can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
Anybody have any objection? Can you put up the previous picture that shows the plan?
Yeah.
The redevelopment area, yeah. Go back, yeah, there we go. Okay, on the right-hand side, it looks to me pretty obvious that what is identified as item K, which is a new building, and the new building number 2 and the new building number 1. When I look at these properties, it looks to me like so-called building number 2 is a open, undeveloped piece of property right behind Athens, which I think would be a perfect temporary parking place until something comes along. The same thing for number 1. That's a small, undeveloped, empty lot, which could also be used temporarily for a couple of years as a parking lot until somebody develops it. And item 12, I think, is a proposed building on the town hall site. And we've talked about our objective long-term to build a maybe multi-story facility with restaurants and shopping there. But for an immediate purposes, looking at what we were talking about and the immediate time frame now in the next 2 years, the lot shown as number 2 and the lot shown as number 1, if we could acquire those either by lease or purchase and turn them into parking lots, that would probably open up maybe 100 additional parking lots to relieve some of the pressure around the town center. Is that something we can think about and consider?
Yeah, Commissioner Hardy, this is actually a really good question, and I'm glad you brought it up, because when we go through the circulation plan, that plan itself is going to come back with different recommendations for parking, to your point. And so you're going to probably see the area C right behind the gas station.
Yep.
That's going to be identified as parking. And then we're going to be looking at that area 2 that you showed behind Athens. We're going to probably show that as parking / redevelopment, right? So to the idea that in the short term, it could be used for parking, and in the long term, whoever is here when those long terms come, that maybe that site gets developed and they can figure out other parking solutions. And so what we would have to do then is when we get that particular plan, we would probably look to amend this specific map to be in line with that. And so that's the other thing that we'll have to do is as we get better information and we start changing things or doing things, and we'll have to look to this particular vision map that shows where these things are and kind of redefine what those things are to make sure that they match whatever information that we got. So if we do approve that circulation plan, my guess we would want to amend this particular vision plan at the same time. That's a good point.
Okay.
So it seems though that, K is where the town hall is that correct?
Correct.
And that lot's already smooth, it's parkable, it's wonderful, except we have more signs up there that say no parking than anywhere else in the whole city. And I don't understand that. I mean, we've got your reserve spots right by the back of the building.
Yeah.
But then there, on both ends, there are signs that say no parking, which doesn't make it enticing for people to park there.
Yeah, the only reason there's no parking signs is because you have the trash collection there. So it's
Why do you need no parking sign for trash collection?
so nobody parks where the truck comes in. So yeah,
Anything to do with the trash.
yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah, It just seems to me, and also if you put parking, a cement box, down the middle of that, everybody would recognize you could park a lot of cars there. And you already own it, you don't need to grade it, you don't need to even cover it. It's very level, very parkable.
Yeah.
How many spots are used by town staff?
About 12 spots?
12, and there are probably, how many parking spaces available in that lot? 50 maybe?
That'd be 50 or more.
Yeah, let's see.
So there's a
30-some.
large number of available public parking that's not being available to the public, is your point. And
So
the
the- so the-
question is why?
So that lot is available to the public,
Yeah.
so they do use it. I know, and what we try to do is encourage, we do try to encourage employee parking to be going to that lot. So employees for venues or the employees up on Easy Street, if they can park in there, then it frees up space on Easy Street. So that's one of the things that we have encouraged. But I know that Athens, the folks, the patrons there use it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a sign that says it's available for parking? That it's
There is a sign, but it's.
free
it's-
parking here?
But that it's, yeah, so there's parking, but so when you drive up, there is one that's there. I don't think anybody sees it. And it's right there too, but that's one of the things about having the signage wayfinding is that we can start putting the posted signs up on posts that say public parking, and it just makes it a lot easier.
Are we going to do that on that lot?
I don't believe, though, they're not planned for right now. I mean, there is that opportunity, but right now, no. Those are going on existing light poles.
But if we needed to add those aren't the hardest signs to add, and they're not the
They're
most
probably
expensive. Yeah.
Right.
Several months ago, we had a consultant
Mhm.
give us a draft presentation on parking signage, how the two mesh together, etc. That was a draft. We were told that at some point, they would come back with final recommendations. What's the timing for that?
Yeah, so should be within the next 30 days. We should have that final draft recommendation in.
Okay.
So that'll come back from Kimley Moore. It just so that because a big part of that was looking at the overall streets, and so when we looked at Cave Creek Road and Tom Darlington, just a lot of engineering work has to go into that. So they're going through that. And we gave them all of our on top of getting all the information we got from that workshop, we got additional information, and then they have to run that past all their engineers to make sure that whatever we recommended actually is even doable. So they'll come back, and if there's anything that they get that doesn't look like it meshes with what we're saying, then they're going to give us the opportunity to respond before they finalize the.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into the weeds, but
Yep.
it makes my point that I made earlier, which is if there are no benchmarks for these strategic initiatives and the action items that flow from those strategic initiatives, it's hard to make any kind of determination as to whether those initiatives are going along as well as they're supposed to, or whether they're not. Because to be real blunt, Steve, 0 to 2 years, I mean, that's meaningless as far as most people are concerned when they start to take a look at what are the activities that the town is pursuing and how are we doing in pursuing those activities. So enough said about that, but I think it's very important to have some kind of timeline benchmarks to all of these initiatives so that the commissioners as well as the council and anybody else has reference points
Okay.
that says, yeah, we're moving along or we're not moving along.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what I'll say. It's your plan. So if that's something you'd like to do, then we can do that.
I'd just like to point out that we have been operating under a calendar that has extended to December, and so far, we've made a few adjustments to it, but so far of the charge that came to us in the strategic plan, we've been knocking off quite a bit of few things. As late as today, this morning, we talked about when is circulation plan coming back, and if it's not on next month's, it'll be on November's for sure. In terms of some of the other things that we're talking about, those are all calendared, and I intend to bring back the calendar at the next meeting, and then we can go have at it.
Great.
But I absolutely believe, I want to see what the path through the woods is. And again, of the things that were assigned to P and Z generically, I think we're making pretty good progress on almost everything that's out there. But we definitely be open to having a more vigorous discussion of that when we have the document in front of us.
Fair enough.
And because it's a little weird, you got to remember this was approved in 2015. So when they were talking short term, midterm, and long, some of these things were back then. So these were created not 2 years ago, but some of these were created 10 years ago, and so a lot of things have already happened, and so we're past some of those things. And so again, that's one of the things why I'm bringing this up, so we can kind of go through exactly what you're talking about, and maybe there's a way we can look to reconcile all of this entire implementation schedule. And that's why I preface this conversation with maybe it's time that we actually do that, because I think we've gone through a lot of these things, and maybe this isn't the most productive implementation schedule in the world right now. But I think the way the plan is designed is actually pretty nice, that it's its own separate chapter, and if we want to go back and tinker with some other things, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here's the objective 2. And this is again going back to that whole village concept. The identify and pursue the key anchor projects in strategic locations. That actually comes to the 2 different sites. One is the hotel site. So the hotel, when the plan was originally created, it was talking about that specific property as being the key economic anchor, and they talked about whether it was going to be a hotel or some type of mixed-use project. The other site of anchor project would be then the town hall site. So we've already worked and completed one of those anchor projects, and that's why the town hall site is on there. Is it's our ability to create another retail anchor within the town. That's under our control within the town center. Then we'll help foster the growth of existing business establishments. You know, we've been putting the merchant group together. We've been working on those types. We're working with property owners. As a matter of fact, one of the things folks I'm dealing with right now is Joe Gimmel, who not only owns the tea room, but now owns the building that she's in outright. And so she's asked that if she could get a list and start working with all the other property owners to actually create a property owner coalition where they can start addressing issues that are relative or relevant to the things that are in this plan. And the things that I think a lot of people have been asking us is, how do we create a more 365 destination that isn't just maybe geared towards tourism, but it's also geared towards creating a business environment that people in Carefree would enjoy it, but even just in the general area. And so, and I asked her if it was okay if I mentioned that today, and she said yes. So she'll start working on that. But there's other property owners, and we've had some transition with Spanish Village, obviously, definitely working towards those things. And the idea is then how do we create really this balance that we're looking for. But a lot of it, and I think there's some fear that we're going to be losing maybe the retail potential, or there's a threat to the retail potential for Easy Street, or what we'll call the retail area. And so I think some of these property owners are really starting to band together and find ways that they can work together to protect it themselves. That's the strongest way that you can actually do this. Instead of the town trying to dictate, have the property owners come back and say, hey, how can we work together to create these things?
Steve, is it an issue that the property owners complain that there's not enough parking on Easy Street? I've heard that bandied about at various times. Is that a real concern that the tenants or the property owners on Easy Street say there's not enough street parking? And if so, doesn't that then tell us that we need to move forward as quickly as we can to add more parking like those 2 properties we just discussed?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue comes down to really the employee parking displacing or tenant parking displacing the actual visitor parking. I think that's one of the bigger issues that I hear. But yeah, then there's the total amount of parking, and like for instance, even like on Fridays when we have the farmers market. It's one of those things where you do have a lot of people, but even if they're at the farmers market, they're utilizing the parking. So we try to do a lot of the farmers market stuff before a lot of the businesses open, and have a little bit of overlap, so those people who can go to the farmers market can go in, and you get that benefit of the shared parking model. And but yeah, I mean it's an issue. That's why parking is part of the overall plan, and it needs to be included in all of it. Where I really hear it from is if we want to bring in businesses that are more popular, or we want to go towards more restaurants, then we definitely need to have the additional parking. And so that's one of the things that we'll be addressing hopefully over the next 2 to 3 months. We're as part of our strategic plan, we have market position strategy, and we're working with somebody right now, and hopefully we'll be moving forward with a consultant that will actually help over the next 2 to 3 months go through that market position and talk to all the businesses, talk to all the property owners. That person will also be talking to outside developers, investors potentially, in particular, and tenants that would be types of tenants we'd like to see here, and get their thoughts about things as it relates to the town. And parking generally seems to be one of those issues where if somebody's coming in, they're saying, well, if I'm going to redevelop this site or if I'm going to invest, we got to figure out the parking issues. So everything's starting to come together pretty nicely as far as the conversation, but we got a lot of work to do. And then revitalize existing commercial areas and buildings through development. Again, looking at the town hall site as being one. Obviously one of the larger redevelopment area buildings that everyone wants to focus on, revitalization or adaptive reuse, would be Las Portales. And so, working at ways that we could go through that. One of the success stories is Spanish Village. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but Spanish Village was kind of a little long in the tooth before Bruce Raskin came in and did what he did. And now that we have Archer Development who's bought it, they continued that. And they've been great partners with the town and working on a lot of different initiatives. And they're going to continue to keep reinvesting into that property.
Can you tell us about the facade program and whether we're making any progress on the facade program?
Yep, so on the facade program, we've had 2 pre-applications meetings. We actually had 1 application submitted, one for the 100 Easy Street, the post office building, and then Spanish Village is going to be another applicant for the first round.
Okay.
And as soon as we get more information on that, we'll put the committee together later this month and make a decision at the end of this month. But they're looking at types of improvements you see at one would be improvements to the internal seating areas, or the adding more shade. Mm-hmm. And that Spanish Village, and the idea of adding more shade is that it extends the amount of time pedestrians could utilize, and so it would extend the amount of retail capabilities within Spanish Village to have a little bit more shade in that particular area. And then the other one is 100 Easy Street. They're looking to potentially redo the parking area, which has been something that the communities have been asking for a while, as well as some signage for the building, and give it a kind of a new brand.
This is just the entire version of
Yep. And then the other one is a development or recruitment campaign targeting specific restaurant and retail business establishments. And so this is one of the things that I know Councilman Johnson has been really pushing us on. And it's one of those things where it's a chicken and an egg, and we're trying to figure out the best ways for us to be able to bring the types of businesses we want in, and where the positioning strategy is actually really important. Because a lot of what I find is that we have a miss. And that miss is yeah, I'm a really good business or I'm a restaurant, but I have nowhere to go. And so we got to figure out ways, and that's one of the things that we're hoping to get back is feedback on how to best take the types of businesses we want to see, and then how do we create the real estate that's going to make that happen. And again, looking at our town hall site is the one that has the best opportunity because we control it and own it. This also is going to extend to the ACE space, and so that's one of the things that we've been asking. And this is kind of a blending of where economic development blends over with the redevelopment plan. And so we are working on ways to fill vacant spaces like the ACE space. And so, and again, when we go through these types of strategies, it's important that you're strategic about it. The world of tenants is the ocean. And if you just go start, casting bait into the ocean, and you don't even know where the fish are, the chances of catching something are pretty limited. So the way we have been approaching it in this particular case, like we sat down with Carefree Living, some of the other businesses that are in there, we talked with with Bashas, and got their input on what types of complementary businesses they'd like to see in that particular A space. And then we start developing a list based on the types of businesses, like to see of businesses that actually could work that way. And then start taking a more proactive approach, dealing with brokers and even calling those tenants directly. I know Commissioner Minsky has been involved in that as well.
What type of businesses did they come up with on the list?
So for the A space, the types of businesses that really came up on that list were another hardware store, or maybe not even just general hardware, but we can look at hardware like doors, or, you know, because you have the blinds gal that's in there. So anything that has to do with maybe home improvement type hardware. The other one was appliances. You know, so is there a way to work with, so there's companies that do kitchens, for instance, but as part of doing design, they also sell all of the high-end appliances that would go into a kitchen or a home. So those are the types of things that they would ask for us to consider as being the targets, because you have a strong home presence in there as well. And then Bash is also looking at a pharmacy, because they don't have a pharmacy within the store. And so we've contacted and reached out to some pharmacies to see if there'd be interest in being a pharmacy in conjunction with the grocery. And if there's any others that anybody has that are ideas, we're always open. So this is objective 2, just kind of continued. You know, some of these are squishy, like establish the village center as the next neighborhood. Again, talking about putting some of these task forces together. You're going to see some common blend for some of the things that we need to do. Go over these when we deal with some of these property owners. And then the acquisition strategy. And this acquisition strategy kind of goes along with the parking. And are there ways we can make strategic acquisitions as a town, potentially, where we acquire particular pieces of property that can solve an interim need, but maybe have a long-term potential for redevelopment or revitalization, or even new development. So maybe we buy some vacant lots and we can develop those over time. And then the other thing that, and Stacy, maybe you want to just talk real quick about where you are with modifying the existing land use policies.
As they relate to town center.
Or, yeah. Or just in general, I know we're looking at the code, so.
Right. Well, I mean, we're talking about land use in our town center. I mean, in general, it's non-residential, commercial for the most part, as it aligns with the redevelopment plan. We're going to try to align zoning in support of what that image or vision is based on our redevelopment plan. So those things are kind of, it's like they work together. So we have kind of an idea, a vision of, you know, an idea for land and land uses, and then we'll have zoning that comes in to try to help support that and move that forward in a legal manner.
And so as we go through this, you're going to see some of these things, and this is one of the ones, like where we say consider acquisition available properties. I've been asked that question a lot, and it's already been asked, like, what can we do? It's not something that specifically has been put into an action item for for this coming year or the next coming year as being where you want a deliverable. But it is something that we are working on, and if it's something that needs to, as we look to the future to add things to the agenda for what we're doing in economic development, or as it relates to this plan, this is one of the ones that we're going to be focusing on, because we need to, but we can start putting more teeth to that if that's something that this particular commission would like us to do. And so, again, part of what I'm doing here is walking through these things, and if you see things on here that haven't been addressed and need to be addressed, or it's the time for us to address them, we can add those things to the list of things that need to be addressed through the Economic Development Advisory Board, and then we can put dates to them and put what type of deliverable we want.
Let me just ask, to Les's point about some of the lots, I think it was item 2, the parcel that was identified as 2 behind Athens as a vacant lot for potential parking. How would a plan come together to acquire that? Who would make I mean, obviously the council would have to make the decision, but how does that ball get rolling? How does that get put in front of them? Where do we go with that? I mean, is that something that staff would recommend? Is that something that EDAB would recommend? to float it out there to see where it goes?
Yeah, and this is why we're going through this right now.
No,
I think
I
that the best place to start is where we're at right now. And as you guys see things like that you want us to specifically address, the idea of government here and the way we do these things is to have transparency of why we're doing the things and how we're doing the things and when we do these things. So when it gets to the point of decision, it's been discussed, it's been recommended, and so that's where we're at right now. And so that's what I'm saying. If this is something that we want to add to the EDAB agenda or the P&Z or however we want to add that, we can add these things to that, and then it becomes a lot easier because it's formalized, and we can put these on the ongoing Economic Development Advisory Board agendas. Even if we need to go back and as they evaluate the strategic plan for council, we can continue to make those recommendations of potential amendments we'd like to make or things that we'd like to add to the agenda, because we've completed some stuff where things just need to get done out of necessity. To your point, though, it's now on a piece of paper. We got time frames, we got deliverables. We're all on the same page.
Would including a parcel like that together, that's just across the street from the town hall, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Would that enhance the attractiveness of that initiative with developers to have that much additional land together with potentially Sunshine Way?
That'd be great.
I'm spitballing here. I'm just wondering, and then how do we?
Yeah, so and we'll kind of go through the update on when we did the open house and talk about some of the things as relates to that town hall site. But I can talk about that now. Yeah, absolutely. If you have additional land where you can have parking, then we can talk about overall densities that you can develop with the other pieces of land. And so if we don't have that, and you'll see when I go through that, there were some charts that I laid out as far as economics, and those economics looked at lot coverage. And that lot coverage is going to be impacted by your ability to park cars to some extent. So if you have to park those cars on the site, Sunshine Way, and you're doing that a lot more on site, then that's going to limit the amount of development that you can have, or you have to go up, you have to go more vertical to try to accommodate and maximize the floor area coverage. But if you have that, it does make it a lot easier to make decisions on how you want to move on the other side. So
If we're looking at these things, one of the first steps is get an appraisal of these properties. So that, haven't seen them.
Yes, it would make sense.
yeah, so appraisals have been done for these properties.
Well,
Just to back up again, we're moving into the tourist season where we're going to need parking. Would it, could we fast forward it and just lease the space
yeah.
until we figure out what the hell's what's going on and how we're going to move forward? I mean, instead of buying it, I'm sure that there's no line item in the town budget for a purchase of that property.
So we do have capital funding that's appropriated for this year for town center. I think it's like $1 million, and so obviously there's a lot of competing things that ideas and thoughts that we can utilize, but it seems the prevalent one seems to be coming back to how can we utilize that for parking. And I think there's ways we're working on that parking solution. And so what I'm hearing here is as we get the parking and circulation plan together, really what we need to look at, and this is why I stopped here, is looking at this particular acquisition strategy as it specifically relates to parking. That's something that I am working on, and if you want to put that on as something to be on the agenda, I will work to put that on our agenda for our regular discussion.
So, Steve, would putting it on the agenda mean that we would, in another meeting or two, be able to vote to amend the Village Center redevelopment plan to include those two lots, to add to those two lots the possibility of using them for parking either by purchase or lease or some other financial arrangement? In other words, do we need to amend the VCRP in order to give the town the right to move forward? Does that have to be a first step, the amendment of the VCRP?
It doesn't have to be.
So we could put it on our agenda for our next meeting and say, this is what we want the town to do?
Yeah, so what we can do is if you guys want to provide direction as we're discussing this, to say, I want to add this as part of a deliverable for discussion as it relates to these strategic initiatives, I can bring you back a deliverable of kind of what our different options are, as much as I possibly can. You know, when you start negotiating and discussing property acquisition, obviously doing everything in public is not to your
No, but what I'm saying is, we need to change the category of those two properties under the plan so that we can then move forward. So that, as I understand it now, under the way the plan is written, those two properties are designated for building development.
Yeah, in an ideal world.
But it's not scheduled for use of parking. So do we need as a organization to change the plan so that it is now available for parking so that the city can move forward either with a lease or purchase?
Yeah, so my recommendation on that would be, you can do it that way, or the recommendation could be you can just add something into to the effect of, to accomplish this particular strategic initiative under this objective, and put it in the plan, that there's transitory uses that the town could utilize, including parking, for strategic acquisition of properties, but the ultimate use of this would be retail, or the ultimate use would be whatever that ultimate use is. And so I think that's something that if we wanted to discuss, we could add those in there. And then if we decide we want just parking, at the end of the day, we can change it.
Let me ask a question. What was your intent for reviewing this village plan with us today?
So the intention of this plan is to kind of go through things that we've done. And then the intention of it is to, and this is what I was saying last time we went through this, is to, if there's things that we're evaluating, the things that we're working on, if there's additional things you want us to continue to work on and add into the planning, into our current workload, we can add these specific things in.
Yeah, because let me tell you my view of this. I mean, you said yourself, this thing is 10 years old.
Yep.
Some of the things that are identified in here either have been accomplished or are in the process of being accomplished or haven't been addressed yet, right? So it seems to me if the purpose is today to review this, and then the follow-up purpose is for us to get together either formally at another commission hearing or informally as part of the Economic Development Advisory Council, et cetera, to go through these on a point-by-point basis, to say, yeah, we still agree with this, even though it's 10 years old, or we don't agree with this and we need to update it, or we need to remove it. That makes more sense than picking apart, various things to talk about today. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yeah. And again, I'm working with what I've got. So if we want to do, I believe the plan needs to be updated. But we've got a lot of things that are going on in the town. And so one of the things that we had the opportunity, and I brought it up in an Economic Development Advisory Board, was when we did the original the original master plan, we had the ULI came in, and it was all precipitated with this ASTAP. And ULI said they would come back in and facilitate that, what they call the ASTAP 2.0, which would take all of this information and we can kind of evaluate it, take a whole, day or two and specifically evaluate this plan and maybe the potential changes we'd like to make to this plan. And so that's one of the things that's on the table that we can still do. If you want to move forward on that, we don't have to use them. I'm just saying, they helped do it the first time. A lot of the things that were in that ULI study are what's actually in here. And so maybe as far as helping them guide that conversation, or we can do it internally, it doesn't matter. I mean, however you guys want to do it, I'm open.
I'm not
to the concept.
dictating
Yeah, I know you're not.
anything. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of, I don't know what the rest of the commissioners want, but from my perspective, if this is a 10-year-old plan, times have changed. I don't think I'm saying anything that would be debatable. Times have changed, so one of the things that we ought to be doing is looking at this in its entirety against the backdrop of what these things, and I'm repeating myself, but against the backdrop of what has been accomplished out of this plan, what is in process, what hasn't been started, or maybe it hasn't been started because it's no longer appropriate, and modify it accordingly. Now, do we need a consultant to do this immediately? I don't think so.
Right.
Maybe at some point. But, you know, that's really the way one does planning. If they're dealing with a 10-year-old or even a 5-year-old plan, it needs to be updated.
Yeah. I open up for a conversation. Chair, if you want to see if any have any other thoughts.
Be happy to have anybody else weigh in on this. It occurs to me that part of what my view of this is that we have the facade program that's rolling out. We have the circulation plan that's going to come back to us within the next 30 to 60 to 90 days. We have the, I went through all this stuff today. I can't remember all of it, but we have a lot of initiatives on the table right now. I don't object to going through this, but I think that perhaps we ought to delay this for a little bit later in the year, and that we would review it and make a recommendation, say, to council, so that council can put that in their pot, mix it up, and come back with the next edition of the strategic plan. I am more into execution than I am to go back and revisit all of this stuff. And we're on the road with the facade program, we're on the road with the circulation program, there are initiatives going on with respect to parking right now that I think need a little bit of time to develop. I'm not objecting to go back and scrubbing this plan, but right now for the next 4 to 6 months, what I would like to see is executing on some of the things that we adopted early on during this year, which was, I don't have my agenda with me, but that calendarized stuff that we talked about.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I guess
Okay.
what I'm saying is, this is a combination of what you're talking about and what has already occurred. And the way to do, in my opinion, the way to sort this is kind of come up with a grid that says, these are the things that have been done, these are the things that are in progress, and these are the things that are on the books, so to speak.
Yeah, so Commissioner Nimsky, if the commission would like, what I can do is, as we get towards the end of the year, of the calendar year, I can do a full-blown report on the plan itself, which, you know, usually you have to do an annual report, but I can do like, I'll call it like the 10-year update on the plan of all the things that have, to your point, everything that's occurred, and other things that we've discussed and heard as part of teeing off maybe a longer discussion about what we can do with the plan.
Well, go back to the intro memo for this section. The wayfinding signage, we know is going to, in theory, it's been contracted for, I assume? So that's going to happen 60, 90 days. The circulation parking plan's coming back. Merchant meetings, I don't know anything about. Property owners outreach, I understand that Joe Gimmel has started a new property owners association that's moving forward. Position planning, I think there was going to be potentially a contract signed today or this week with, to get a little bit more feedback on what that is. The facade program is moving. We got 1 to 2 applications. I think we may exhaust the amount of money that's allocated. The town hall redevelopment, I think, is a big, juicy item that's going to engender a lot of discussion. And I'd rather than, personally, I'd like to take that on, grab it, do something about it, and spend a lot of time on that, because it's going to take, and we'll get an update here shortly. The events calendar, that's fine, blah, 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 blah. So all of those things are in the works. I would like to try to get some of those done, or in a rearview mirror at least, and then go back and revisit the plan. That's a lot on the agenda there, especially the town hall thing.
My response to that is that a lot of this is being done now and by other people, and it's out of our hands. We're not going to have anything to do about the signage that's all gonna get done by other people. I agree with you, Peter, that the town center redevelopment is a huge issue for us. We're even having public hearings on that, but I don't want us to give up the possibility of doing some easier, quicker things that I think are no-brainers, like these parking lot issues, that I think we could do within 30 days and just tell the town council that we think that we want to change the plan with respect to that only, and give the town the ability to then move forward.
Well,
Chairman Burns, may I just interject? And
Yeah.
I just wanted, so everybody understands too, these were council-adopted plans, and so while I don't disagree with you that some of them may seem like straightforward sort of updates or edits to the plan, it still has to go through a more public process than the Planning and Zoning Commission approving something. I would also say that, to piggyback on that, the circulation plan is sort of going to be the plan that sets up the framework to then go back and amend the redevelopment plan. I would state that I would suggest having that plan approved first before you modify the redevelopment plan, particularly related to parking.
And to some extent, wouldn't decisions on parking have to await the conclusions of the circulation plan?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're connected at all.
Well, so the circulation parking plan does, so we know what's coming, right? And we know what some of those recommendations are going to be as part of that. And to Les's point, if we know these things and they're imminent and they're things that we can address now, then can we address it? So it is in the plan here as far as something that we're supposed to be, that we can do. I mean, the reality is the town, if we can purchase these things and we can use them as some type of interim use, it doesn't mean that the long-term use still isn't what's identified in the plan.
Or even lease it.
Yeah, or lease it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is I don't have a problem coming back in the short term and start outlining a little bit, put more structure to the outline of what we're doing from an acquisition and parking strategy.
I think it would be great if you put those things together in one page. Okay?
Yeah.
These are the objectives, these are the timeframes we've got for them, and here's what we're planning.
Yep.
I think that can be done on one piece of paper as versus, all of this. This is long-term, we're talking shorter term.
Yeah, so for the current stuff that we're working on, there is actually it's like 2 pages. But yeah, we have the 1-page calendar, and then we have a 2-page work plan that just kind of identifies what those things are. So I don't think you have that yet, so I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
That'd be great.
Yep. And then objective 3 is the village center experience. Again, this is where the facade program came in out of this. A lot of this has to deal with a lot of the activities that are related to the gardens, and then creating this as a destination, pedestrian retail destination. Again, you see some things that have overlap with the signage on there. And one of the things that we've done is really try to integrate the gardens as being part of the commercial retail experience. And that the gardens themselves aren't necessarily the destination, but if they are the destination to somebody coming here, that we can quickly get, that's why we put the visitor center in there, that they quickly can get to a place, and it's like a hub and spoke, right? They get there like, oh, cool, I didn't realize there was restaurants here, or I didn't, maybe they were thinking of going to Cape Creek to eat, and then they go, hey, screw that, let's just go over here and eat, right? And so, or let's shop here in Carefree. So those are the things that we're trying to do with the gardens, and as well as, working really closely with Madison to put a whole structure of utilizing not only the gardens, but the pavilion space, and even utilizing the street space, like on a Friday night with the restaurants now having live music. I think in some cases it's going great. Some cases there's some rough edges, but we're working it out. But at least everybody's trying to create a more vibrant destination and do something a little bit different where we just don't roll up the streets, at the same time every night and everybody goes home. And so it's a balance that we're trying to create. And the idea is that not only are we trying to create this vibrancy for the visitor, but it's also creating activities for the resident as well. So, I think the coolest thing that, whenever I go travel somewhere and I visit someplace is that I'm in somebody else's neighborhood enjoying that, going, man, I wish I lived here. Or, this is really cool. They get this all the time. And so that's really kind of what we're looking to do. And then, this kind of comes down to a conversation about the gardens as being, and we've had this back and forth conversation. Is it a pure gardens where you're trying to have this really peaceful, tranquil environment? Or is it a botanical garden that was meant to bring people? It's enjoyable, but the idea is to create a larger experience in the town center. So those are the conversations that we've been having. As we go through this particular plan, that's the way the gardens have been outlined as being utilized. And some of the recommendations, like you see, is making sure that the tree canopies aren't too thick, that you can see across from one side of the gardens to the other, so you can see from one retail place that there's another retail place. And that does come in conflict with some of the people who think that's not necessarily how a desert botanical garden should be. Those are the things that we're dealing with. And I just want to let you know how we've been approaching it comes specifically out of this plan. And so if there's something that we want to address that's different, that's what we can do over the next coming months if we needed to do that.
Any plans for an Oktoberfest in the garden?
In the garden, so that's one of we've looked at doing like an Oktoberfest, and one of the things that we're doing is hopefully having a fall in love with Carefree. We kind of kicked it off last year. We're going to try to expand it this year, where that would be more of a business event, and that where we can utilize the different seasons, particularly fall as being our kickoff. We're trying to get people to come down and experience the businesses, but to have a fall, I would love to do like an Oktoberfest or a fall event, and that was more geared towards the residents. And so that's one of the things we'll continue. It's just getting time and getting people to commit to doing it. I know we've had some people in the community who've said, hey, I'd like to be part of whatever planning committee, but it just takes people to do it. And to plan those things, it takes a lot of time. And so we've tossed it around. I don't know, Madison, if you had anything to add, but no, she doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to do that. And if that's something that you guys want us to focus on, more events like that, we definitely can. Yeah.
Say that on item number 2, feasibility of creating public art program, my neighbor John Lassen is very interested in that subject and has approached me about doing something, and I've told him my plate's full, I can't do any of that. But he is interested. He has a lot of art of his own that he would probably like to display. So I just want you to know there is somebody out there who is very interested in being involved in public art for the town.
Yeah, I've talked to Mr. Lassen several times about these things, and and we'd like to try to find ways to include that. And one of the things we've done is try to expand the level of art that we have in the gardens and try to be thoughtful about that. So I don't know if anybody's noticed, but part of that is working with some of our existing galleries, like Zuva Gallery. We put the Mighty Elephant out there. The town actually built the pedestal, and they provided the art, and the art's for sale. So if somebody buys it, we get sales tax out of it, and then they can rotate different pieces on there. We added the Spirit Wind, which is the Native American on the horse. We've done some things to move some stuff around. And the idea, again, is how do we really create that blend of art that mixes between the garden space and the commercial space. So you see the Stampede, it actually is over at the hotel. I actually talked to the owner of the Stampede the other day, and he likes where it's at, and so he's going to end up donating that to the town.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think we should give kudos to whoever designed the frontage of the hotel. I think it's spectacular. I think the gardens in front of Hampton Inn with the statue are absolutely terrific. It's riveting.
Yep. No, I think it's great. And then I appreciate that. And Clint actually had a lot to do with that, and as well as the mayor. They worked directly with the Hampton to get that done, and they spent a lot of money to redo that and try to make it feel like it's more part of the garden space.
It's a beautiful job.
Yeah. And then we added the Scorpion, the horse that's over by the tea room. And so the idea is we don't want so many horses right next to each other. So we'll look at ways that we could actually look at the overall pedestrian environment and add additional art pieces in. We worked with Sonoran Arts League to add the piece in and got that dedicated. And then I'm working on cataloging all of the art, make sure that, you know, sometimes we don't even know who owns what, to try to figure all that out. And then working with some of the private property owners to add art into and incorporate it as part of what they provide on their, so if you go to Spanish Village, they have art as well. If we can work with 100 Easy Street, and then it just becomes kind of the theme that we have within the community, because it did start as an artsy town, and we try to promote that as an artsy town. One of the things that we look at, and I just want to touch on here, is incentives for commercial buildings. And we talked about facade program, but one of the things we have with the redevelopment areas is if, let's say, we do get some type of unique proposal for a particular building that we have interest in revitalizing or redevelopment, we have the capacity as a town to be able to enter in a development agreement and be able to provide a myriad of types of incentives, like we did with the Northeast Corner, where we can utilize sales tax, where we can use fee waivers, or we can even use, you know, expand the facade program if the project's larger, but it's going to have that benefit. And as we do those types of incentives, I just want to let you guys know we do evaluate those projects on a lot of different factors. Not only does the deal of the project make sense, but we look at the long-term revenue that the town can get from that particular project versus the opportunity, you know, of not doing it, right? You know, the detriment to the town of maybe particularly letting something that's negative keep going through, you know, being the norm. So just want to let you know we are seeing a lot more interest from investment looking at the town. They love what they see as far as the vision and the way the town has been evolving. And so just to let you know that I do get a lot more proposals for these types of projects. Objective 4 is the market and promote. And when I very first started, I took this and I did a marketing and promotional strategy for the town center. I made it as part of the work plan, and it's been successful. I mean, for what we have, we've been able to take our tenancy from, our vacancy was like around 35%, and we're down to like 10% or less, depending on how it goes. Right now with the ACE, it's up a little bit. But where I run into the problems is once we get to this place of saturation and we start looking at marketing and tenancy, it becomes a little bit different, more difficult trying to get the types of tenants that I think people want versus the type of space that we have available, and there's that miss on that tenancy. I also want to say when we look at market, the promotion of the village center, there's 3 things that we look at when we talk about promotion and outreach. One is bringing in investment. Who's going to be the next person to come in and reinvest and do the next Spanish Village? Then there's, you know, where we're bringing in good ownership. The other next one is looking at the types of tenants that go in and fill those particular types of buildings. And the other marketing and outreach then goes to the types of visitors. And again, this all plays into the positioning strategy that we're going to be going through to help really identify all that. And one of the deliverables is going to be the recommendations for those 3 different categories of what we're trying to attract here. And so, you know, we've always talked about tourism and trying to bring in, you know, whether it's the buses or whatever it is. To live and die on tourism isn't probably the best strategy. And so are there ways that we could look at expanding the market outreach we have to the types of visitors that we have? But that has to match the types of tenants that you have, and those tenants have to be able to go in spaces that they're going to want to be able to invest their money into and operate their businesses. That's why this is going to be a critical, I think, 3-month discussion to come out and do some truth telling about what it is we can and are capable of. But at the same time, it's also going to provide that linkage for us to be able to really put this strategic promotional strategy together to go after those investors and really be strategic about those types of tenants. So this is going to be a focus of ours as we go through that process. And then the objective 5 is to build just this organizational structure. So again, working with these property owners, and I think we have a really pretty good solid foundation of property owners that are buying into all having exactly what this town wants and what we're trying to accomplish with the plan. And that is to create a really kind of a unique destination pedestrian retail environment, entertainment space that people can come in and enjoy, not just once, but on a regular basis. And then also looking at how we continue as a group to make sure that we're on top of all of this and we're being strategic about how we do all of this. And so that's what this is all about in this conversation. And I'm sorry it's long, but we get new people who haven't been part of it, and you got questions, and I want to get you answers, but I want to get you exposed to all of this because you do have ideas about the things that we want to do. And so, again, it's a very fluid thing. And if there's anything that anybody wants to put on an agenda to discuss at a future EDAB meeting as it relates to this plan or P&Z, we can put these things on the agenda and have those conversations because I want to make sure that we're addressing all of those things.
Any comments?
I just have a general question. As you get development proposals from whomever about some kind of development within Carefree, at what point does the Economic Development Advisory Committee get a chance to look at those and comment on them?
It's kind of really depends on, there's a lot of factors that will go into that as far as, we're the proposer when they're ready to be able to discuss those things. Obviously, before any kind of council decision would ever get made, we would want to come in and have that economic development EDAB conversation. And so I just have to feel that one out and figure out, like, between the developer that would come in or the potential investor, where that appropriate time would be. But we wouldn't make any decisions necessarily on incentives or anything like that until we had that conversation. That'd be my goal.
Okay.
So before anything goes to a council, it's going to come before you guys for discussion. I think that's the way they like it.
Any other business before the Planning and Zoning Commission? Any announcements? Entertain a motion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes appear to have it, do have it so ordered. Belatedly, we'll call to order the Economic Development Advisory Board. And we're going to have a town hall AIT open house debrief. Can you explain what an AIT?
AI.
Paul, how do you say that word? I don't know. Open house debrief.
Just a debrief would be good.
Yeah.
I think
Madison going to come up and?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking.
What?
well
Oh, he goes first?
for like 2 seconds.
Here, this is what I'm talking about.
Oh, I didn't print it. Shoot. I didn't print that one, sorry.
Yeah, so just to kind of go through the open house recap, we had the first open house as it relates to, based on the conversation we had for the town hall site, and we actually it was a pretty good turnout. I believe we had, I'd say around 50 people come through, and really good conversation. What I want to show you here is that we had 3 stations, and at those 3 stations we had 3 different types of conversations. One was around looking at potential uses for the site. The other one was talking more about the aesthetics, design, and layout, and things that people would like to see. And then the other station was talking about really just more what we just talked about, how it fits into the overall redevelopment planning process, why we're doing it. I looked at and just did some of the parking and revenue analysis, so looking at some of the FARs, and it was just a real cursory discussion, and then talking about what the potential needs are. And then, obviously we'd have to figure out something to do with town hall. We don't have anything specific, anything ironed out yet, because that may change, and that could change as real estate becomes available or not becomes available. So or as construction costs go up or as construction costs go down. So those are a lot of factors, but at least we wanted to start the conversation about what it is we're trying to accomplish there. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Madison, who really put a lot of the effort into putting, we managed the stations, but as far as making sure that the thing flowed really well and was a success, and we got the input, Madison put that together.
I put the lemon water, and that was really popular. Because of my job is communications, and I'm kind of his right-hand man when it comes to marketing and economics, I created the survey, created the website, put it all together, put all of our slides together and the information, and then I'm just kind of here to present on the survey results, which includes both the online and the written cards that we got at the actual event. Some of the text I have for some of these slides does include some anecdotal feedback we did get from people actually at the event as well. So total 43, it's gone up probably like by 3 over the weekend, but I last tallied this on Friday of last week. And first I'm going to focus on the types of uses. Out of all of the online and written cards, the most popular suggestions were restaurant and retail. There was definitely a lot of people who suggested a mixed use of both as well. Community space for classes and things like that was also a third front runner. And then we did get about 15% that said to just keep town hall. And then 14% of that was more unique or other. I did put those in here because I felt like they just didn't fall within the categories we had, which was an animal shelter, a pet grooming spa. We had a few people say they wanted a Trader Joe's there, and then an indoor dinner movie theater. And then some people just recommended putting in more offices or service business spaces or an outdoor park. Some general concerns that we also, because I know that throughout the event we had some people voicing some concerns, especially on the survey results as well. Some of those were basically, what are we spending on relocation? Is it too much? They were worried about costs, I guess. The lack of focus on empty storefronts in Northeast Corner development, and then the historical significance of the building was also something that was brought up quite a bit. Just kind of people saying well, was the first building built? Why would we tear it down? And then the next station that we focused on was more of the design elements. These were only from the people that said, obviously, to move forward with the project. Those who did not contribute to this part. But design was ranked greatly important for the community, and 9.2 out of 10. So I think that would be, if we did move forward with this, that would be something that we really need to value and make sure we make clear. Some architecture styles that were mentioned were colonial Spanish, southwestern, mid-century modern, old west style, Arizona to territorial. I would say colonial Spanish and southwestern were the most recommended, both verbally and through the surveys. And then it was mentioned quite a few times that they want something that blends it with the sundial, something that complements it. Design elements that were recommended were rooftop seating, use of natural materials, something low profile was also very highly recommended. Either very low profile, 2-story, or just a 1-story. An outdoor plaza with seating, it was also recommended. Also integrating some of the desert garden features was recommended. Artworks and statues, and that kind of brings me to something that was brought up both verbally and through the survey, was some way, if we were to forego town hall and tear it down, maybe a statue or a plaque that honors the history of the site. And then kind of as you guys were talking about earlier, lots of marked public parking was also very important. And then we also went into relocation, and I will say that out of all the 4 example factors that we provided, like accessibility and parking, proximity to town center, cost effectiveness, and ability to host meetings, they were all pretty equally valued. I think everybody wants us to stay close, stay accessible, wants the project overall to be cost effective, and for us to be able to have meetings and events or of that at the location. And then we also focused on the overall feedback that many favored utilizing an already owned property, such as adding on to town council chambers if possible, or purchasing and optimizing an existing office building rather than rebuilding something brand new. Or I know some people did recommend or said because we own the site that the water company is on, maybe doing something there. I will say that comes with its other costs because that is already utilized by the Carefree Water Company, so that would be more of a building up. And once that was I know when I talked to somebody about that, they were like, oh, if you have to like completely rebuild it, that would be less ideal. And then we're still in the step one of this entire project, the community input. We're still trying to get outreach, feedback. Ultimately, even just the people who say they don't want this project, we still want to hear from them. And then I know it's also been recommended that we do more evaluation of the site in terms of appraisals and evaluation of what it would cost us to build, lease, which is not ideal. Obviously would not be to lease a space, but to purchase or repurpose a space. So, yeah. Throw it back to you. Yeah.
Could the building be moved, relocated, put it in a different place?
Like physically lifted?
Yeah, physically lifted up and moved.
I don't think it has the structure to do that. There's lots of add-ons to that current building. Like one of the offices that I used to house used to be a patio, and it's been built out. So I don't know if the foundation would be suited for that.
I mean, that might solve the problem of historical significance, if it has any. I'm not sure it does, but that could be a solution.
It's definitely an interesting suggestion. I mean, it's got character.
It's interesting when we talk about that. One of the things that's not in the redevelopment plan, or even when it was ever created, is not really having this tied to the history of the town. That is one of the things that was brought up through this that I did hear was, I think people feel like that building has a strong connection back to the original founders because it was the first building that was built, even though it wasn't built to be a permanent building. It doesn't matter how those things manifest over 60, 70 years. That's just the way it is. And so one of the things that we could look at doing is not only just looking at how you preserve maybe some kind of historical concept for that particular, whether it's design or you do some kind of memorial or whatever it is, or plaque, but looking at the entirety of Easy Street. I mean, there's other buildings that were built like right after that, Ortega's, for example. Is there something we can do at Ortega's? Yeah, at Ortega's where we can put some kind of monument, the first commercial building built for commercial purposes. And I think that would actually be kind of fun for visitors to be able to come and see and then be able to get a little bit of that history as they walk around. And I know when we did the anniversary, the 40th, people did, the signs are starting to fall apart, the temporary ones, but if we can do something more of a permanent nature of his history, I think that'd be kind of neat. But I just wanted to give you guys a flavor of that. I did reach out to each of the members. I think for the most part, all the members, their experience concurred with the results. I know one of the members that was said, I think she primarily heard that people didn't want to move forward, that there was more of a desire to focus in on other things. And so, but everybody has their own experience as they go through. And I know the mayor also floated around and asked and talked to folks as well as Clint Miller, one of the council members. And so I think they kind of concurred with the same particular conversation here. And again, this is an opening salvo. The next step is how it's not a sprint, but we also don't need this thing to be like a race around the world either. So, but trying to find the right pace for us to be able to get the information, but at least drive it to some kind of conclusion where we have dates where we come back with potentially some kind of recommendation. And so that's where we're at right now. Is we're looking to have at least one more open house when people do come back from winter visiting in October, and then maybe from there we can come back, look at what those results look like, and if we want to put together some kind of document or some kind of draft of what that would look like if we were to go to market, we can do that as well. But we'll also be looking at bringing in some of the more detailed information on costs and those types of things as we move forward.
Any of the buildings in the town center have a historical designation?
No.
One of the advantages of that property is that it would be the only property that is outward facing. We all know that part of the marketing problem with carefree circle is that all of the buildings face inward, and that when you're driving on Tom Darlington, you don't see it. You don't see anything. This would be, on Cave Creek Road, this would be the only building that faces outward, and so it could be the key entry to downtown.
That actually was brought up several times in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a good point.
How many town halls are you planning?
Right now, we had the one, and we're at least looking at one more, but we can do as many as you guys want.
I'm just wondering if, I don't know how many you're having, and I'm just wondering if October is too soon for all of the people that are, you know, vacated for the summer, whether they'll be back and get their feet under them, so to speak, or should we delay a little bit longer to collect some input?
You guys know when people come back a little bit better than I do. You know, I hear what you're saying. I agree that if we do October, it's going to need to be the end of October, but we could also do the earlier of November too. You know, otherwise you start getting into the silly season, and people are here for like a few weeks, and then they all go somewhere else to go.
When does Boulders open? Just November 1st. Okay, that's when the Boulders opens. I mean,
For their
it's
season.
For
their season.
is what's the date?
That's when everyone
Yeah.
usually comes back.
Okay.
November 1.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we could look at that second week of November.
I think also on that point of it being the only building outward facing, there's actually a challenge because it almost has to be both outward and inward facing.
Right.
Otherwise, you have the other buildings along Easy Street staring into the back of a building, and that's not going to be attractive for anyone.
It would wrap around so that wherever you are, as you come in, you see it, and as you get out and walk around the garden and the sundial, there wouldn't be a back to that building, in other words.
And by including in Sunshine Way, it does give the opportunity, to your point, the four-sided architecture or four-sided approach, where
Yeah.
you know the building has appeal. You know, then you have to deal with the challenges of trash collection and delivery, but you can make those things work.
Minor problems. Solvable.
So the online survey is still open?
I closed it today just so I could make sure I get all the results in, but we'll open new ones, and we'll probably look at making different, like adapted ones with different questions.
Okay.
So we'll look at doing that still.
And maybe closer to the next town, or again,
Yeah.
centered around the next.
Yeah,
Town
I think
hall
once we
meeting.
get a good grasp on kind of what exactly we're going to cover without completely copying the first one, I can create a new one that we can open before, kind of like I did this first one, and then update the web page and kind of just our wave 2, I like to call it.
You know, at the last council meeting, one of the individuals that commented talked about the fact that there was a lack of any kind of estimates regarding the financial impact of these various options. Is there a way prior to the next open house to come up with some numbers? And again, they wouldn't be final numbers, but they would be a range of potential costs depending on which option is being considered.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could put together as far as like if we were to like build out in this area here, like things that we know that we could potentially do.
Yeah.
And then we can just look at, you know, in general, what the per square foot cost for, you know, an office building would be. You know, we can kind of start looking at those and what those costs would be. And then we also know what the value of our property potentially could be. And then we can look at the total value of whatever economics we get from the project, you know, as far as sales tax goes. Because all those things will fit together. You know, the other question comes in is, you know, do we included Sunshine Way, other parking considerations that, you know, maybe we look at throwing in and trying to figure out a way to include that parking, or maybe there's a way to include, you know, this property over here. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can start to look at as we evaluate that. But yeah, the more information we get, the more we'll start putting that all together.
Very cool.
Okay.
Other comments, observations, thoughts, announcements, motions?
Motion.
Second.
We are done.